it's Maria Felix-Fass here with your weekly recipe feature for Envision Talking Newspaper. And this week the recipe has come from a listener of the Talking Newspaper, Pam Spencer from Fleetwood. A big hello to you and thank you for challenging me with this one, as this week's recipe is for a Bakewell Tart. So for your ingredients for a Bakewell Tart, you need a short crust pastry and you also need the filling and an icing. So for the pastry, I use 6 ounces of plain flour, that's 175 grams, and 2.5 ounces, that's 75 grams of butter, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water. For the filling, you need 3 to 4 tablespoons of raspberry jam, 4.5 ounces of butter, that's 125 grams, 4.5 ounces of caster sugar, that's 125 grams again, and also 4.5 ounces, 125 grams of ground almonds. You also need 1 egg beaten up and half a teaspoon of almond extract. You also need some flaked almonds, a handful just for the top. And you also need some icing sugar, 80 grams of icing sugar. So what you need to do is you need to make the pastry. So this is just the same as any pastry. You measure the flour into a bowl and rub in the butter in cubes with your fingertips until the mixture resembles fine breadcrumbs, like a shortbread recipe. And then you add the water, mixing it to form a very soft dough. And then what you do is you roll out the dough on a lightly floured work surface and you use enough to line a 20 centimetre or 8-inch flat tin. Leave it in the fridge to chill for 30 minutes. Whilst you're doing this, you can preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius. That's 180 degrees Celsius if it's a fan oven or a gas mark 6. And go and get a brew. Once you've had your brew, what you then do is you line the pastry case with lining paper and you fill it with uncooked rice, or if you have baking beans, then you use this. This is to keep the pastry flat when you cook it. And then what you need to do is pop it into the oven for 15 minutes and then bring it out, remove the lining paper and the rice or the baking beans, and then pop it back into the oven for a further 5 minutes so that the pastry base is dried out. Then you make the filling. So for the filling, what you need to do is spread the base off the flan that you have now generously with loads of raspberry jam. And then in a separate pan, melt the butter, take it off the heat, stir in the sugar, and then add the ground almonds, the beaten up egg, and the almond extract. Mix all this together and then pour it into the flan and sprinkle over the flaked almonds. Pop it back in the oven and bake for about 35 minutes. If the almonds seem to look like they're browning too quickly, then cover the tart loosely with foil to prevent them burning. Meanwhile, sift the icing sugar into a bowl, stir in 2.5 teaspoons of cold water so the icing feels like it's ready to drizzle. Once you've removed the tart from the oven, you can either pipe or drizzle the icing over the top, giving a very rough-looking, informal zigzag effect. And voila, your Bakewell Tart is ready. Enjoy it hot, fresh from the oven like that, or leave it to cool and enjoy it cold. And remember, if you have a recipe like Pam that you would like to let me know about or have a go at baking, then do get in touch with us here at Envision. For now, happy baking.